This tutorial is going to show you how to calculate your own individual API score. Now, if you remember, this is where we left off, where we have pulled up the star scores for our class right here, or classes. And if you remember, Brian and Gino was nice enough to let us use his data. So here he is. We have two Mod Civ classes here. We know that he has 25 students in this class, 37 students in the other class, so he has a total of 62 students who took Mod Civ with Brian last year. And this is how his scores break down in a percentage basis. And now we're going to take this data, punch it into an API calculator, if you will, and it will give us Brian's individual API score. So you're going to open up the API calculation file, which is on the H drive, and which everyone it was emailed to everybody. Now this right here is used by the state to actually look up the API for the school, and if you were to fill in all of these fields here, you would then be able to move down, and right over here in this column it would show our API score for the whole school. Well, you can also use this to look up by department or by individual teacher. So you're going to go to the section up here that corresponds to your subject. If you're in math, you would use this column, English right here. Science, you'd use this column. And then history is going to go right here. So we're going to punch Brian's scores in. Now it wants to know the levels: advanced, proficient, basic, below basic, and far below basic. And it wants to know the number of students. And that's why it says number of valid scores right here. So it's going to want to know the number of students who scored at advanced and proficient and so forth. Now I'm going to move this up a little bit so we can see the scores on the other. There we go. And there we go. Because on the score printout that you're going to have sitting next to you at the computer, it only gives you percentages. We have to do a little bit of a calculation here in Excel. So you're going to click in the column for advanced. Now to start this off, to start off any kind of formula in Excel, you must enter the equal sign first. So we're going to say that for advanced, it equals 25, which was the total number of students here in the class, times 4%. And we're going to go 0.04. Now that would give me the number of students who got advanced for this class. But I also want to know his overall API. So then I'm going to say plus 37 for 37 students in this class times the percentage, which is 0.297. And then if I hit enter, it will tell me that 11.9 students, basically 12 students, scored in the advanced range for both the classes. And then we continue this on every level. So the next level will go equals 25 students times, and it looks like 28% of his students scored proficient in that class, so 0.28, plus 37 times 0.297 equals, and then I'm going to keep going with this, equals 25 times, over here 56%, 0.56, plus over here 37 times 0.324. It's sometimes helpful to have someone sit with you actually and feed you these numbers rather than having to look back and forth. And I'm going to show you at the end how you can double check and make sure you entered it all correctly. So at the below basic level, out of the 25 students, 12% scored below basic. And out of the plus 37 students in the other class, it was 0.081, 8.1% scored below basic. And nobody scored far below basic, so I can just put a 0 there. Now the way to check here is that according to the way this adds up, I have 61.96 as my number of valid scores, and that matches right over here this number of all the students that he had last year, 62 at 61.9 if that was rounded up. And so that's how you can check. And then you have the drum roll, and you skim down here to see what his API score was. and it's at 807, which if we were to take a look at the overall API for his department, was actually 768. So Brian was actually well above the average. And what does that mean exactly? That's for Brian and his department to talk about. I mean, it also would probably the questions would start coming up like, well, how did Brian do on certain strands? And if Brian is above the average by that much, then what was he doing on some of those strands, and what lessons was he using last year? And then how could he share that? So that is how you calculate your individual API. Again, you take your scores and you just basically punch them in here. If you think you messed up on the formula is actually listed right here. So that is how you look up your API for your individual classes. Thanks.